Is he alive? He's not? Oh, good. Oh, thank you.
This is 63-year-old Cynthia Cdebaca, a formerly cherished grandmother and spouse who was eerily concealing a sinister truth. After Cynthia endured a stroke, her daughter Laura consented to let her reside in their guest house during her recovery, enabling her to stay in luxury close to her loved ones. However, luxury was the last thing Cynthia truly experienced, as within the upscale, costly home in California lived a dysfunctional and deeply discontented family.
My brother would tell me that she didn't approve of the way he disciplined the kids. On the other hand, my brother didn't approve the way she would discipline his kids.
Although publicly regarded as a pleasant and sociable man, Laura's husband Jaward was privately a strict and violent parent. Under the guise of what he referred to as tough love, he would emotionally and physically mistreat his family, even going as far as to destroy his children's toys whenever they acted out.
My Aunt Cindy would be on the back patio smoking because she wasn't allowed to smoke in the house. And he would be out there watering and he would see, oh, where I see smoke, I see fire. Gotta put out the fire, and he would hose my aunt down with the hose. He did it to my cousin too, to Laura, his wife.
At one time, in a fit of fury, he even discarded Cynthia's late husband's remains. Yet in spite of everything, the family endured Jaward's behavior, until one day, things took a terrifying turn for the worse. Cynthia had acquired a handgun from a nearby firearms shop. All she needed now was a reason to use it, and it wouldn't be long before one emerged. On her 62nd birthday, just before leaving for her granddaughter's spelling competition, Jaward made a comment that filled her with fury.
You can't go like that because it looks like you're ghetto in this.
Just moments later, 5 gunshots rang out through the neighborhood. Then 5 more, and 5 more again. Jaward's lifeless body was eventually discovered sprawled on the kitchen floor, riddled with 12 bullet wounds from head to toe. Meanwhile, Cynthia had made her way to a nearby Denny's for breakfast, then casually continued her birthday celebration at a casino, completely unmoved by the brutal crime she had just carried out. But given her bitter history with Jaward, it didn't take long for authorities to zero in on Cynthia as the prime suspect. They apprehended her at a coffee shop just hours after the killing. After all, who would believe a kind elderly grandmother had just murdered her daughter's husband? Cynthia knew that once in custody, all she had to do was weave a few lies, put on a show, and by all appearances, she'd walk free.
Well, unfortunately, Laura's husband has passed away.
Huh?
We're going to ask you some questions. We're going to ask you some questions because we're trying to figure out what happened today, okay?
All right.
Likely sensing that she wasn't earning any sympathy, it didn't take long before she abandoned the performance and her sobs shifted to scorn.
What did you think of him? Okay, why do you say that?
That's the big thumbs down. You didn't like him.
Eventually, Cynthia found her voice and informed investigators about the torment her family had suffered at Jaward's hands, recalling instances where he sprayed them with water, hurled verbal insults at his children, and even strangled his wife. So while detectives now understood that Cynthia wasn't particularly fond of Jaward, they weren't prepared for what would come next.
Did anybody try to stop him?
Can't stop him.
It sounds like somebody had to stop him. Or
I did. I was guilty.
okay. Somebody had to stop him.
I did.
Okay, it's okay.
Is he dead?
You tell me.
Gotta be dead.
I think he's dead.
I hope so.
Cynthia's almost immediate confession of guilt was quickly followed by a haunting narration of the brutal incident.
You got your gun from your purse, and then what happened?
Went and shot him. Wasn't enough.
After she fired all 5 shots out of that revolver, she chose to go all the way to her car and reload 5 more rounds into her gun. She walked back into the backyard and found the victim bleeding and crawling, trying to get away. And at that time, she pumped 5 more shots into his body. She still wasn't done. She still chose to go to her car and load 5 more rounds. She pulled out that revolver and fired 5 more shots until the victim was finally dead.
It was also later uncovered that just weeks before the incident, Cynthia had visited a nearby shooting range to practice with the very weapon she bought to kill Jaward. Another clear indication that the killing was deliberate and premeditated. However, premeditated homicides are typically carried out in a fit of intense fury, where the assailant is determined their target must die. Seldom are they executed with such a calm and indifferent demeanor.
Did you check to see if he was dead?
I didn't care.
And it appeared as if she genuinely didn't care, since right after the killing, she went on to celebrate her birthday with a meal, some gambling, and a cup of coffee. Cynthia also displayed zero regret when questioned about whether she felt any guilt for her actions.
You don't feel bad about it?
No.
Would you do it again?
Yes. Is he dead?
He's dead, man.
Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Oh boy, oh boy.
In under 10 minutes of questioning, from Cynthia's initial denial to her full confession and even satisfaction over Jaward's death, detectives determined it was time to wrap up the case. Cynthia's family was brought in to offer their final farewells, and it was in that moment they fully grasped they were trapped in a nightmare no one could ever imagine enduring.
Oh, God. Oh, I didn't have to do that. I wanted to.
Amid Laura's piercing and uncontrollable grief, Cynthia sits calmly, entirely satisfied with her actions. Heartless, unrepentant killer grandmother. And when her granddaughter was invited to say her final farewell, Cynthia was finally faced with the full extent of the destruction she had caused, as the girl refused to even step into the room.
Oh, honey. Oh. Don't kiss me, please.
No, you killed my dad.
Cynthia's image as a ruthless killer grandma was solidified even more by the response she gave when the investigator suggested she pray to a higher power for fair treatment in the legal system.
Whoever you pray to, you make sure that
I don't
you
pray to anybody.
call us a higher power.
I prayed today.
Okay.
First time ever prayed.
What'd you pray for?
Hope he dies.
Oh boy.
3 years after the fatal shooting of Jaward Eustachio, the trial of Cynthia Cdebaca commenced. While it was admittedly clear that Cynthia was responsible for Jaward's death, the central questions the court sought to answer were whether the killing was pre-planned and if it could be considered justified. The argument against premeditation was relatively simple to dismantle. Remember, Cynthia had purchased the firearm used in the crime just weeks earlier, and she had even gone to a gun range to sharpen her aim, ensuring the act would be executed quickly. It also didn't help that during her interrogation, Cynthia had made the following statement.
13 years I wanted to go get him. I'm devastated.
However, the notion that the killing was justifiable proved a bit more difficult to dispute. Cynthia claimed that Jaward was both emotionally and physically abusive. In fact, the defense even had Jaward's wife, Laura, backing their argument. She tried to assert that he truly had been abusive, and that Cynthia's actions, taken in a moment of intense emotion or fury, were meant to shield her family from a man who was allegedly tearing it apart from within. But naturally, the chilling interrogation footage was once again brought up to dismantle that argument, and just a few weeks later, a verdict was reached.
And fix the degree thereof as murder in the first degree.
This is a tragedy. I love my mom. I love Jaward. There's no win here. Not for anyone. It's just complete sadness.
Cynthia Cdebaca received a 50-year prison sentence. At 65 years old, that meant she would spend the remainder of her life locked away, burdened by the consequences of her choices until her final breath.